morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Create a Psychologically Safe Workshop. And that might be a training session, it could be a facilitation session, or in my case, I run public speaking workshops, influential workshops, leadership workshops. So how to make that workshop psychologically safe for the participants, for the people that are in that workshop. So Peter Dew's my name, public speaking trainer and coach. My passion, my role is to give you the confidence to share your voice, your ideas, your messages, so you can make the impact that you want to. How to participate, as always, ask questions as we go, no silly questions. Feel free to ask questions after. If you don't want to raise a question or an issue during the session, you can send me an email afterwards. Apply what I'm doing. Have you got a workshop coming up? What are you going to do differently to make your participants feel safer from a psychological perspective? Have you been to a seminar or a workshop where you've seen something that you thought made people feel uncomfortable? What would you do differently? I think it's the application of the knowledge to your own personal circumstances that makes the difference. It's not just theory, it's what can you as an individual do differently the next time you're running a training session. Feel free to take notes. And as I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded. So if you want to review anything, I will make it available for you. So why is psychological safety so important? We know about psychological safety in the workplace, but in a workshop, in a training session, why does it matter? I mean, I've got the information that you need to learn so that you can do your job, or you can pick up a skill around negotiation or how to do difficult conversations. Why does it need to be psychological safe? I've got the facts, I've got the manual, I've got the model for you to follow. So why is psychological safety important? Well, the first thing is it encourages open communication, and open communication encourages learning. And if we do a training course and there's no learning, then nothing's changed, and the training is possibly a waste of time and energy. There's a quote that I love. People listen and learn from people they know, like, and trust. It's actually a marketing quote. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And I've just changed it. People learn and listen from people they know, like, and trust. So psychological safety, feeling safe in this workshop, helps people trust you a little bit more. You all know when we go into a room of strangers for the first time, and we might be asked to introduce ourselves, we have that level of nerves. So the encouraging open communication and learning and the safety helps us relax just a little bit, which is one of the points. Promotes openness, risk-taking, creativity and innovation. In terms of risk-taking, I don't mean jumping out of an aeroplane or being really risky. By risk-taking, I mean being prepared to disagree, being prepared to offer an alternative or a divergent opinion. If people don't feel safe in a workshop, they won't say, oh, how about this? Or I don't agree with this. Or why does this matter? Because they don't feel safe. And if you stop people from asking questions and putting forward alternative views, you are reducing creativity and reducing innovation. Creative and innovation workshops, workplaces, are where people feel they can say something without risk of ridicule or that's a stupid idea, Peter. It enhances collaboration and team building. As we see people take risks because they feel safe, people will admire them, they'll take further risks, and it'll build that teamwork. In my public speaking workshops, when colleagues see other people get out of their comfort zone, have a go and speak, even though they're nervous, they also do the same thing. And then when they go back to the workplace, they've got that collegial understanding, and they're each prepared to offer each other support, encouragement, and often coaching. And as I mentioned, it reduces that nerves, the fear, the anxiety around walking into a foreign area. I need to upskill in my public speaking. I need to upskill in my negotiations. That fear of failure, and sometimes that imposter syndrome. I'm an accidental leader. I'm not really good enough to be a leader. So psychological safety in a workplace, in a training environment, really helps the learning, the collaboration, the innovation, the teamwork, and reduces that fear. So the first thing that I do is, it doesn't have to be formal, but briefly or broadly, the Chatham House rules, what happens in the room stays in the room. What happens in the room stays in the room. And that enables people to say stuff, to put forward those ideas. And if anything is shared, it is only with the permission of the person who said something. So if they had a great idea, and then someone says, oh, I can use that in my workplace. Do you mind if I mention this in my workplace? So Chatham House rules, there might be a few other things. It's just setting some formal rules up front so people know that what they say is going to be respected and safe and stays in the house, stays in the training room. I also let people know that I'm not going to report back to your manager. I'm not going to report back to your HR supervisor. Oh, gee, Peter's a real loose cannon. He's got some wacky ideas. I'm not going to do that. What you do in this room, I'm going to coach you, I'm going to help you, I'm going to support you, and I'm not going to give feedback. It's not the role of me as a trainer. I'm not going to give feedback to anyone outside the room regarding what happens today. Allow people to participate at a level that they feel comfortable. Most of you will know that I am a person who stutters, and I hate being asked to have to speak if I don't want to. So don't force people to say or speak up, or what do you think, if they don't feel comfortable. So up front, I let people say, I tell people, I'm going to ask you to do some things. I'm going to invite you up the front. I'm going to ask you some questions off the cuff, especially in my thinking and speaking off the cuff. Feel free to pass if the question doesn't suit you, or if you're feeling a little bit too nervous. Participate at a level that you feel comfortable to participate. We need to monitor and read the room. This relates to energy levels. This relates to people that may be visibly feeling uncomfortable. Be aware of the introverts and the extroverts. Introverts often don't like to participate at workshops. Introverts remain silent to think, and they'll often have questions or ideas after the training's finished. So how do you harness your introverts? If anyone's got any questions, has any ideas after the workshop, feel free to send me an email. And of course, extroverts, be aware of extroverts. And of course, with extroverts, there may be one or two people who tend to dominate or hog the training, the conversation. So how do you manage those and be aware of those? Bearing in mind, I'd like to encourage introverts to participate and make it safe. But I want to allow people to participate at a level that they feel comfortable. So I don't want to point to an introvert and say, look, you haven't said anything yet. What do you think? And one of the things that I talk about is the differences between introverts and extroverts. And I encourage introverts to, face their fear and do stand up and speak. And sometimes you need to put time limits. With my workshops, I give people 90 seconds to respond to a question. So that's 90 seconds for everyone. So the person who wants to say more, their 90 seconds is up and then they need to sit down because I'm moving on to the next person. So monitor and read the room, see what's happening. This relates to energy levels. This relates to people that may be a little bit perplexed. And that perplexed, that rolling of the eyes. Don't be afraid to take a step back and go, look, I'm just going to go a little bit deeper here. I'm not sure everyone fully understands, as opposed to pointing out. So Bill, you seem a little bit perplexed. Is this above you? Give people breaks and check in. So when you monitor the room, sometimes people need breaks. And this works especially for online training. If you're doing a Zoom training and you've got your cameras open and you're seeing what people are doing, you may need to, you think you can do a 60-minute seminar on Zoom. 60 minutes is a long time. And if people are zoning out, you might need to say, look, let's take a 5-minute break, rest your eyes, get yourself a drink, and we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes time or 10 minutes time. I have an agenda up on the whiteboard that says morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, and finish. And while the finishing time is fixed, the other breaks I allow flexibility. And I may need to break earlier because I can see that people are just really struggling. So give people breaks and check in. In the breaks, I'll check in. How's this going? And especially with the introverts. Would you like me to help you contribute? Would you like to have a go? And I'll coach you as you're speaking. Ask permission if you're going to do something controversial. I do a few things in my workshops that are a little bit controversial. And I let people know and I ask permission. And I also give people permission after, because they don't really know the impact of that controversial thing I'm going to do. After, give me further feedback outside of the workshop if you wish. One of the things I do is if I notice lots of ahs, and, like filler words, I'll ask people, do you mind if you give us permission, every time you say I'm going to put my hand up like this. So what you'll see is as you're speaking and you're trying to think of what you might be saying, this is going to be happening. Now, this is going to drive you crazy and you're going to struggle to focus on your content because the hand keeps going up. And people might say, oh, no, I don't think that I'd like to do that. Or, okay, yeah, I'll give that a go. And once again, I point out that your content is less important. I want to make you aware of the number of ums and ahs. Because people say, oh, I might have a few ums and ahs. In reality, they say an or an ah or an every fourth or fifth word. And this makes them realise the frequency. But in doing something like that, I get permission first. Sometimes I have to go with the group. I'm going to share a video that might be a little bit controversial. Can I get your permission to share this video? The purpose is I want you to see the way the person responds to an off-the-cuff, unexpected question. And it'll be a video where someone struggles, someone's not doing a good job, and it's to illustrate a particular point. And most times people give permission. Occasionally someone will say, oh, I don't think you should show that video, Peter, in which case I will not show that video. So it's getting permission so people feel safe, or they're aware that danger is coming up. You've seen on TV, this news article shows images of people who have since passed away. And that's a cultural sensitive message. And they're just getting permission and letting people know that they're going to show a picture film of someone who's passed away. All right, moving along. By the way, any questions? Anything in the chat? Ensure confidentiality. I mentioned with the Chatham House rules, one of the things I let people know is that what's going to happen in the room stays in the room, and I am not going to talk about anything to your supervisor, to your HR manager. That is not my role. The other thing is sometimes I work with organisations, and BHP, Rio, the education department, the health department, and I let people know that whatever they say, I'll treat as commercial and confident. I will not breach anything. If they accidentally talk about something, a project they're working on, an incident that's occurred, I'm not going to breach that and take that out into the open public. It's a little bit harder when you're working with a group of people that work together. So someone wants to share something, but it's not a group of strangers, it's now a group of people from the same organisation. Once again, I encourage everyone to ensure confidentiality, and once again, share at a level that you're comfortable with. So if you think what you might share and someone breaches your confidentiality, and that will cause concern, maybe don't share at that level. For example, one of the workshops I do is the art and science of influence in the workplace. In other words, how to be more influential. It's aligned with public speaking, so you get change happening, you get new things happening in your workplace. So when you do public speaking, if nothing happens, then you're just hot air. There's been no result. So what I get people to do is bring along an idea where you'd like to be more influential, something you'd like to change in your workplace. So I've now got a group of people that work in the same organisation, and we're going to work through each person's idea of how to be more influential on one particular project. So what if their project is to change a process that everyone else in the room is going to say, well, no, that's a stupid idea, or whoa, where did that come from? So choose a project that you're comfortable, something you want to change that you're comfortable with sharing in that particular group. If a workplace scenario is too risky, bring a scenario that's from outside of work that you're happy to share with the work, with your workers. So one person brought along a project. I would like to influence my wife to be on board with buying a caravan. Yep, they've got a four-wheel drive, they want a caravan, they want to do more road trips, more holidays, take their kids, but their wife is a bit reluctant to spending money on a caravan. So when we go through the influencing skills, they're working on a project that is safe, as opposed to changing a process in the mining sector. I'd like to get rid of a supervisor, a superintendent. These are hot topics that you may not feel comfortable or be able to talk about. The idea is that the skills you learn, you can then apply to the real problem that you're not comfortable raising in a group of colleagues. So ensure confidentiality and work out a way, if people want to raise an issue that is too hot to discuss in that forum. Because the skills I teach are transferable to all situations. Make sure you foster a culture of respect, empathy, and open communication. No silly questions in my workshop. I encourage questions. When people share something that is a little bit emotional, that respect and that empathy. And when you foster that, it makes the workshop so much more engaging. People are more open to learning. One of the things that I do is I share my own vulnerability, my own weaknesses, my own journey as a person who stutters and feared public speaking for most of my life. My public speaking journey is relatively recent. And allow people to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not a weakness. Vulnerability is a leadership skill. And I'm sure all of you have heard of Brené Brown. So these are some of the things that I do to make people feel safe, psychologically safe in my workshop. So they can learn, they can collaborate, they can get out of their comfort zone. I believe learning occurs at the edge of our comfort zone. And that is the Chatham House rules. What happens in the room stays in the room. If someone stands up and has a brain drain and freezes, we don't go out and say, oh, gee, Peter made a real idiot of himself when he was throwing that question. Participate at a level, give people permission to participate at a level that you feel comfortable. Read the room, check in what's happening. Various personality types. I've mentioned introverts and extroverts, but also some people are visual learners, some people are kinesthetic learners, and some people are auditory learners. Different learning styles. Give people breaks as required. Check in if things are going okay. If you're going to do something controversial, something that makes people sit up and say, whoa, has impact, but get permission if you're going to go down that controversial pathway. Ensure confidentiality and that what people say stays in the room, that I won't breach your confidentiality either, and create that culture of empathy, respect, personal admiration. I always ask people, be curious when other people stand up and speak, be curious and adopt an attitude of admiration. I've got a couple of workshops coming in Perth, winning presentation skills, thinking and speaking off the cuff, a couple of spaces in both. I'm off to Melbourne on the weekend to do some corporate work. The next webinar, my free online 30-minute webinar in February, is 5 strategies to create presence. Presence is those people walk on stage and they just seem to engage the audience. They seem to look calm and comfortable, as opposed to the people that are a little bit awkward. How do you create presence even when you're nervous? Thursday, the 15th of February. Love to have you on board for that free webinar. You know how to reach me. Any questions, send me an email, give me a call. Quite happy to answer any further questions that I may not have covered during the webinar that may be concerning you around psychological safety in a workshop. Any feedback? Thanks for your participation. And this is Peter Dew, public speaking training and coach, wishing you well in your public speaking journey. And remember, whenever you're in charge of a group of people, how can you make those people feel safe from a psychological perspective so they can participate, learn, and contribute? That creates a really good learning environment. Bye for now.